Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and this is our Night Terrors. I hope you're all ready to be night terrorized, because that's what I'm here to do, and if I do my job, that's what we'll get. So I'm ready to deliver for you the best show I know how to bring you. I'm just going through everything, trying to make sure I got everything going. I think I do. I think we're all set, so we got that going for us, but welcome to the end of your weekend. I hope you had a wonderful weekend, and thank you to all of you who stuck with us through the weekend on our Friday and Saturday shows. We had a lot of fun, always do, but it's just great to get together. Now, remember, the next 2 days, of course, there won't be any shows, Monday and Tuesday, no live streams here on YouTube until Wednesday again, when Don and I will be back, and all of this will look hopefully new and revived and nice. I'm hoping I'll have everything all put together for you. But remember, a new podcast dropped today. So if you are following our podcast, and I hope you are, please check out any of the major or minor podcast players out there. We're on dozens of them, but you can find the Paranormal Portal podcast out there. And we'd love your support there as well. And if you're a Stitcher listener, we'd love for you to, if you like the podcast, you're enjoying them, please give us a review on Stitcher. We've got so far, we're new to the platform, so we haven't been there a awful long time, but we've only got so far one review, which is a wonderful review. And thank you to the person that reviewed us there and gave us a glowing review. But if more of you guys would do that, that would really help, because obviously for those people that aren't familiar with the show, they're going to rely a lot on reviews. They're going to go, well, I've never heard of this show, so what's this? And they're going to look at the reviews and go, oh, there's no reviews, or there's not many reviews. So, it definitely helps to promote the show. And I'm sure it helps Stitcher's algorithm to promote it as well. The more positive feedback a show has, the more they're going to put it on their recommendeds and stuff. It's all pretty similar. The same thing for YouTube, same thing for everywhere else, iTunes. If a show is well reviewed and received, they are more apt to promote it. So it would really appreciate it if you get a chance. If you wouldn't mind doing that for us, it would help us a ton to get our foothold established in the Stitcher community as well. But the new one dropped today, so I hope you guys will check it out. The nice thing about the podcast, of course, is that all you need to do is have an active internet connection enough to download it, and then you can listen to it at your leisure. If you don't have, Wi-Fi or internet as you run around, you can still listen to the portal. Bring us with you. We like to go on trips. We like car rides. So I know a lot of people out there are listening to us, and I get emails back, and it's really cool. It's like, hey, I really enjoy your show. I listen to you on my long commute from work, and it makes it fly by. It's like, wow, that's really cool. It's really neat to be a part of people's lives like that. To me, that's just awesome. So really appreciate that. But anyway, the podcast is out there, and there's quite a few episodes out there as well. So I hope you guys will check those out as you're able. Let's see, throughout the course of our show, obviously the phone lines will be open, so if you want to call in and be a part of our show tonight, you have something paranormal to share, I'd love to hear from you. The phone number is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. And that's how you can call in and be a part of the show. I'd love to hear from you. So I guess that's all I got on the front end, so I hope you all are ready, because it's time for bed. Boom, that was it. We're back at it. We're back in the seam now. It is all underway. So I'm going to bring you some stories. I got a bunch pulled up for you here. I hope you guys will enjoy. I enjoy this. I enjoy talking about this stuff, obviously, because I, of course, have a show about it. I got to mention, though, last night, MCAT has been, combing through his part of the research from Coloma, and he sent me 3 sound files. Duke, I still got to send you that comparison. Sorry, brother. It's been on my burner, but I keep skipping around to 5 different things. So I'll send that to you probably after the show tonight. But MCAT sent me 3 sound files so far. One is an actual EVP, and others are intelligent responses, and it really is pretty cool. I got just chills listening to it, and it really drives it home the fascinating event of contacting another realm, another state of being, the other side. And it just gave me chills to listen to it. So thanks again, MCAT. I hope you find more of those. We will be going through a little bit of this stuff on Wednesday's show when Dawn comes back. But those sound files, I mean, it's just haunting. It's just, but in a really cool way. Like, I had chills listening to that whispery EVP, and it's just amazing. I don't know. It's just amazing to me. So I'm really excited to bring that to you guys. Again, make sure to check it out on Wednesday's show. I'll try to arrange it with MCAT to call in and be a part of that as well, because it's just fascinating. It's fantastic. And it really breaks my heart that my own sound files were just dumped, and it's just so damn stupid. But again, I thank God MCAT was there, obviously, just because he is an investigator, and he had a whole bunch of equipment that really helped us a ton, but because he knows what he's doing, and because he knows how to use his equipment better than obviously I know how to use mine. Again, in my own defense, I literally got the recorder a day before we left. And that day wasn't a lot of sitting down. I actually sat down, did a couple test records, and so I knew it worked, but everything from Coloma is not on there. It's just an empty disc, so I'm just like brokenhearted about that. But thank God MCAT had his recorder rolling and was able to catch those things, and I hope many more. But it was just really neat. So I wanted to share that with you, a little sneak peek to Wednesday's show. We'll go through those sound files. We'll talk to MCAT on Wednesday's show if that works out for him. And just really exciting. It's just really exciting. And it's really fun to listen back to those files, because you were there. And then you also know that so was something else. Now, I had no doubt there's spirits there. I mean, obviously, you really kind of feel it. If you're there, you'll know what I mean. If you've been in a haunted situation or haunted house or dealt with spirits before, you know what I mean. But when you have a piece of evidence that you can show the world that is not able to be explained, then that is just really powerful. Really, really cool. So I'm just glowing about that. And again, MCAT, thank you so much for all you did on that journey, and for recording everything and doing a much better job at it than obviously I did. So, all right, let's get to the stories tonight, ladies and gentlemen. The first one tonight is coming from New York. New York. Forget about it. This has to do with haunted life. It says, for most of my life, I've always felt that I was being watched by someone. But until last month, I didn't know anything about my spirit guide. Going back a little over a month ago, I was at my friend's house for a sleepover, and somehow someone started talking about spirits. That seems like standard fodder for sleepovers, doesn't it? The ghost stories will always come out at some point, especially for the younger people. They come up all the time on my sleepovers too. So it's because I eat and breathe this stuff, ladies and gentlemen. But it says, a different friend of mine showed us how to contact our spirits with a candle and a necklace. I wonder if they're talking about a pendulum. But anyway, the beginning of a lot of trouble. Going out on a limb, I gave my exact address, and we summoned my spirit guide, Corey. I spent the better part of the night talking with him. I gave discussing problems and just relishing in the fact that I was doing something I had wanted to do for so long, which is contact spirits. Ever since that night, I can tell when I'm doing something Corey disapproves of, and there is trouble. Corey has 2 children, Stephen and Penelope, and a wife, Anne, who also stay close to me. They all died around my house back in the 1800s, and for the sake of time, I'll continue to the following occurrences a week later. The spirit that died close to my friend's house, Dominic, is extremely powerful. My friend contacted him that night, and ever since, he has been like a voice inside of her head. He keeps her up at night with his laughter and gives my friend gruesome images, and I can't describe. When she does something that annoys him, he doesn't hesitate to slap her or scream in her ears. One night after she had annoyed him more than usual, he took hold of her wrist and squeezed until the bone was bruised. When I saw her the next day with a brace, I got angry and I wanted it to stop. I wanted my friend to be able to sleep, and I wanted Dominic sent to the light. I contacted him myself that night and called him an awful lot of things I probably shouldn't repeat here, and then taunted him saying, "You don't have the nerve to hurt me because of Corey." Once my anger was vented, I ended the conversation to go take a shower. I saw something in the reflection of a garbage can lid, so I looked closer and saw an enormous man standing behind me, and he wasn't happy. It was Dominic. I whipped around to see nothing there at all, and Corey was furious. He knew what I had done was dumb and dangerous, but at the time I didn't see how dangerous it really was. Just this past Friday, March 13th, Friday the 13th. This story's from 2009, so I went back to the same friend's house for another sleepover. Nothing serious occurred until late that night. Whenever I saw my friend wince, I knew it was Dominic. I showed my disapproval by swearing loudly and mentioning that I was completely fine and far more annoying than my friend could ever be. I dared him to hurt me. And Corey got angrier than ever. I can't see or hear Corey directly, but I could almost feel him saying, "You will regret saying this." Late that night, Dominic began to really display this rage. Just past the start of the witching hour, he told us that someone was going to die at his hand, and then he would possess my friend to do so. Terrified, my friend, the other participant at the sleepover, and myself all gathered in a circle with makeshift crosses to pray. As we prayed, my friend jerked away, hissing that crosses were burning. I kept my calm, and somehow, and a few minutes later, my friend was starting to drift as Dominic overpowered her. This is kind of sounding pretty fantastic, but I'll continue for the sake of the story. I kept my cross close and spoke to him until she gained control. Scared beyond what I have ever felt, my friend sat back down, nervous about what she could do if he fully took control of her. She described to me how she could tell what he was thinking, and how he wanted to break my back, and how he was going to choke our other friend about a half an hour later. At this point, it was close to 2 a.m. Dominic was fed up. My friend gave us one final warning: get away from anything he can hurt you with. And then she was gone. Standing, I looked into the eyes of hatred, and as he went for a pencil, the other friend and I locked ourselves in the bathroom. Dominic whispered angry words at us about breaking down the door, but we clung to the lock, praying that it would hold. Breaking through all our strength like nothing, he broke the lock on the door with a knife, right as my friend's dad had awoken. God had kept us safe, and I breathed relief as Dominic made a barely passed attempt at pulling off my friend, and then daringly went back in the bedroom with them. He had calmed down enough to have a conversation with me, during which I pleaded with him and was forgiven for the angry words. I don't know, this is really flaky. Corey had come back. He left us during the struggle. And what I found funny was that Corey still doesn't trust Dominic, and vice versa. They were never fond of each other before. It's almost over. Before Dominic left, my friend passed out on her floor, and he gave us one warning: never contact the other man who died around this property. I don't know how strong he is, but he can kill a living person without thinking twice about it. I fear that I may be putting myself in danger in telling you this, and I feel the other man's hand on my back as I type. 2 nights ago, I felt a different spirit in my room, and I saw a different man in my house. And last night, as I tried to fall asleep, the other spirit pulled at my heart, trying to possess me. I felt my awareness slipping away, and I clung to my thoughts, hoping for Corey to come back, and whenever the other spirit gets close to me, Corey seems to be forced away. Corey just confirmed my suspicions today that this other entity is the spirit from my friend's house, and he wants me dead for reasons I don't know. As I'm typing this, I feel a hand on my back and pressure inside me. But I need to tell other people. Many of my friends don't believe in spiritual activity on Earth, so I needed more people to hear my story. I don't think I should contact the man to try to send him into the light. That may only open any barriers that have kept him from killing me thus far. I think the only thing I can do is talk to Corey and my friend and trade ideas. One of my theories is that the man is somehow involved in Corey's son, Steven, who makes a lot of deals he still can't keep during his life. I just felt extreme pressure that I'm going to take as confirmation until I can contact Corey again. Finally, thanks for reading my story. I don't know. Is it possible? I suppose it seems like a pretty fantastical narrative, and I don't know. These stories like this, where there's all of this real specific information and stuff, are hard for me to get my head around. And I can't say that it's not possible, but it does sound fantastical. And it's the old orgy of evidence thing. It's like, well, we did this, and then this, and he tried to do this and this. It sounds like, I don't know, a kid's exaggerations, at least. There could very well be spirits that they're dealing with. There could very well be scary situations. All I would just say, I don't want to address that story too much because, I don't know, it doesn't ring true to me. And that's not me being disparaging. And please, this isn't something someone submitted directly to the show. This is a story I found. It's an old story. So I'm not disparaging anyone directly here by saying this, but I think that some people kind of fall in love with the idea of the paranormal, and they embellish everything, and they go so far out on these fantastical whims and ideas, and they create narratives. Now, the problem, I think, the big takeaway, I think, is never mess with spirits. Never mess with spirits, especially if you're young. There's so much that is hard to understand, and time teaches you. Not that adults have everything all figured out, but I think that the one thing that adults are generally is more emotionally stable. Kids are spontaneous, impetuous, and they're whimsical, and that's not a bad thing. But it also means that they're also oftentimes not very grounded. And I think that if you start pushing and exploring powers and ideas that you can't quite wrap your head around, you can become susceptible to them, and you may end up in a situation where you've drawn in the wrong kind of entity, and there's it's then it's a real problem. And what they're talking about here, it sounds like a high school story. Like, well, he got mad, then we talked, and we broke up, but now we're back together, and so that's kind of why I'm having trouble with this story. But I would just recommend don't play with things you can't understand. And I'm not saying anybody understands spirits really, but at least some people have ideas. They have knowledge of protection. They have ideas of how to push negative things away if they do come. Oftentimes, not always, or at least they have resources to handle things. I think kids are ambitious, and they dive headfirst into things. There isn't a lot of let's think this through. It's just let's do it. And so I think it's always dangerous, and that's why Ouija boards tend to be dangerous to people that don't know what they're doing. So anyway, just my food for thought. Take it or leave it. What was that? I heard something in here. I don't know what it was though. Huh. Something probably fell down. But just my 2 cents for whatever it's worth. I think you don't play with things you don't understand. Let's get on to the next one, and this one is coming from Hawaii. Oh, this author is very cool. This author I recognize. We've read several of her stories. She is a medium, as I recall, but she does a really great job, and I've really enjoyed everything she's ever put out there that I've found. So, state of Hawaii, it has to do with haunted places. Today I went to pay my respects. They're gathered around the covered grave, the aunties, the cousins, the mother and father. Funerals in Hawaii attract dozens and dozens of people. There wasn't much as far as tears, but the atmosphere was solemn. Me, I stood off to the side, being in the middle of the masses. No, I just can't do it. I watched his father holding up his mother. My heart went out to them. Another needless death of a teenager, and he was driving fast, trying to impress his 15-year-old girlfriend, and he missed a sharp turn, and the rest is history. He was 18 years old, and the passenger in his car, she sustained severe injuries. The young woman riding with him is in the critical care ward. She'll live with his decision with each glance in the mirror. I understand she went through the windshield at high speed. Of course, she wasn't wearing a seatbelt. I saw his ghost wandering through the crowds. He looked as surprised and devastated as anyone who's newly deceased. He seemed to ignore the other entities that were milling about. He was looking into the faces of those he left behind, and it was obvious he knew what he had done. I could read it on his face, how sorry he was over his choice. Unfortunately, it was too late for him to be sorry. There were spectral beings following the guests around, and this is quite normal. All of us have loved ones who come to comfort us when we suffer. The guardian stood back and allowed each person to grieve. Grieving doesn't feel good, but it helps us to mature. Grieving helps us to appreciate our loved ones. Our guardian angels keep us close, and they give us space to mourn. And mourning, we will all go through it at different times in our life. Someday people will be grieving our passing. I watch the children running around. They play quietly as the adults mourn, and the crowd is swelling with the living and the dead. I move away as some of the apparitions have taken note of me. This is neither the time nor the place to be comforted by the dead. My eyes focus on the family of the young men. I hear the whispers, and the sorrow is building. Having already approached the family, I see the young man following me with his eyes. I smile at the spectral teen, and he understands. I will be going back to his graveside tonight. I will listen to him tonight. And I hope to help him move on. That's so powerful. Eesh. Just a one choice at the and missing the cue to do it, or to pull it off, or just not to do it at all, and that one choice just has such an impact on so many people. It's just so sad. I think it's, obviously a young person dying is nothing short of a horrible tragedy, because they have all of this potential, and their lives are just getting started. So that's terrible. I feel bad. All right, let's go to another one from Alabama. And this has to do with a haunted life, ladies and gentlemen. Haunted life stories are pretty good because they tend to be, a long-term exposure to the paranormal. Some people just seem to have that, and I suspect that it has a lot to do with, abilities. That they are either latently psychic or very aware that they're psychic. But there are some people that just seem to be magnets. And normally it's the people that don't really realize that they're psychic. Like they might suspect that they are, but they don't realize that, as for some reason, and again, I've said it many times, some reason these people are like beacons of light that these earthbound entities can see, and they just gravitate towards for whatever reason. And it kind of is sad, really, that there's so many of these beings and spirits wandering around needing help, like they're lost. I think that's a heartbreaker. But anyway, it's coming from Alabama. It says, when I was younger, I always tried to avoid ghosts as much as possible because I used to watch Scooby-Doo. And it conditioned me to be afraid of them. Green Pond is a very small town surrounded by other small towns. Within a 5-mile radius of where I live, I have heard of 3 haunted houses, which are now torn down. What I know about them are secondhand, since I tried to avoid ghosts. The first was a house down the road that nobody has ever lived in since I have been here. According to the story, a man was shot in that house and bloodstains reappear on the floor no matter what you did. The second was a greenhouse 2 or 3 miles away in Woodstock that nobody would live in too long. A lady who used to live there was pregnant and depressed and took her own life. She is the one that haunted it, supposedly. And the third house was a pink house 5 miles away in Gray Hill that was occupied, I think, when I first heard that it was haunted, but was vacant not long after and sat deteriorated over a period of 12 to 15 years before it was finally torn down. There's also a subdivision that had some of the houses built on top of Indian burial grounds. Ugh. And a few of those houses were haunted, including the one my second wife lived in. Now, you can do everything possible to avoid a ghost, but sometimes life will catch you off guard. And after my first wife died, I got brave and would visit her grave when I had time, 9 at night at a country cemetery where the closest house is a quarter of a mile away, and with the only street light. I stood my ground in the name of Jesus and told who was there that I had a right to be there, and I would not be run off. Nothing ever bothered me except for one time when I thought I heard a ghost rattling chains. But I went to where the noise was, and it was the rope of the flagpole hitting the side of the pole. Then one night I was lying in bed and woke up to somebody yanking on my arm, like they're trying to pull me off the bed. Well, I snatched my arm and said loudly, "Well, just pull me off the bed then." And it let go, and I have no other problems until I married my second wife. I don't know if that's, is that an omen? It says my wife lived in a haunted house, and I think she brought some of the ghosts with her, mainly a spirit that took the form of me and would try to seduce her. Woo. It also took her form and passed by the bedroom door once. It only tried to seduce her once, and God rebuked it through my wife's voice. It was God versus the spirit that looked like me, and she thought it was me until God spoke to it through her. After this, his head scrambled, and he said loudly and angrily, waving his arms and backing up, "If that's the way it's going to be, just forget it. Just forget it." And he was gone. I asked her later if she meant his head blurred, and she said no, it scrambled. She thinks that it tried to choke her in bed years later, but she prayed and it released her. I think that the only problem she ever had after that was not that particular spirit, but some I brought home from the graveyard one time when me and her were split up. I was lonely and angry and said at my first wife's grave, "Why don't you just come back home with me?" But I think something did. But I didn't know about it until me and my second wife got back together. She would hear footsteps banging on walls, her bed being kicked every morning, and someone saying, "Hi," in a female voice, and my voice calling to her when I didn't call. I got madder than a wet setting hen because when they upset my wife, I considered that messing with me. I tried calling them out, saying, if you got something to say, say it. If you want to fight, fight me. If you want to scare somebody, scare me. This was doing it at my convenience, of course, and the bedroom was off limits. I also tried to get them to leave, going as far as anointing the doors and windows with new olive oil, extra virgin, that was bought and used only for that purpose. And I did this while rebuking out loud. I also went through a ritual where I explained it to them to get in the car. I even opened the door for them. And I would take you back to the cemetery, in which I drove to the cemetery and opened the door and let them out. Things have quieted down, but I do feel somebody still looking at me every now and then, and my wife is still scared because of past experiences. I tried to get her to stay up here and face her fears, even to the point of getting her to listen to my voice on the CB radio talking to my friends while I was night watchman, and she could talk back. But she finally resorted to sleeping at my parents' house 50 yards away. Anyhow, now they or it mainly picks on other people who come in when we're not home. People who have permission, like homeless men, we knew, and we let him spend the night alone. He didn't go to sleep until my wife and I got home in the morning and wouldn't stay another night. And my wife's cousin and his wife, who heard a lot of activity running, doors slamming, and then his wife was pushed when they left out the door. I guess next time I give them permission to come back in and cook something, I need to say it inside instead of outside so the ghost can hear it. All I can say is I sure feel sorry for anybody that breaks into our trailer, because they're going to probably get a surprise. And if I could videotape it, I'll bet that would be entertaining. I still don't trust these spirits, though. God bless. Huh. Yeah, you got to be careful. Never open an invitation like that. Never. Because you don't know what's following you home. You don't know what's coming home. Eesh. That's creepiness right there, ladies and gentlemen. But that's what we do here on the portal. We do creepy all the time. All right, let's go to the next one. And this is coming from Virginia. It has to do with sleep paralysis, old hags, night attacks. So these are my favy. No, it's really not. They're okay, but I think oftentimes they're really not sleep paralysis, though, is what I'm starting to realize, is that they are possibly something else. But it's been a long day. I was extremely tired that night. My family had a little party that I had to go to, and I just hung out with my cousin playing Scrabble. We got home at around 11:30 that night, so I just went straight to bed. My dream that night was really strange. It was based at my school, and a girl who attended my school was talking to me. When it violently changed, and it was a Scrabble board that read out, "The L space RD is my S space viewer." Wow, I felt like something was asking me to answer it, so I finished the sentence and said in my head, "The Lord is my Savior." And this very deep, demonic voice screamed, "No." And my body started vibrating. Well, it felt like it was vibrating, and I couldn't move or talk. I was forcing myself to move, and eventually I threw myself out of the bed. I grabbed a cross and went to another bed and couldn't sleep in mine for 2 days. Now my question is this sleep paralysis or not? I feel like it probably is, but no one can seem to help me with this question. For a while, I've considered this to be possible possession, only because sleep paralysis happens very frequently, but the voice that I heard was so real. It could have been, but I seek guidance. Yes, that's could be the onset of an oppression of some kind, sure. It's hard to know. Again, I think that most things like that, they're probably not the dark demonic kind of things, because, again, I don't believe they want to be noticed. But it could be something plenty dark all the same. There's lots of things that were never human but are not considered demons either. And they are not kind. I think they just want to create fear, though. I think that what they need is the fear. Oh, that's the minion, I think. He's singing. That's my boy. All right, let's continue on. Here's another one. This one is coming from California. Did you hear him? I don't know if you guys can hear him or not. The kid loves to sing. He'll sing all the time. And he sings, he like even does the faces like when he's reaching those notes, he's just going for the passion. His eyes get dim and he's just feeling it. It's just so awesome. He's such a natural entertainer. And his funny thing is that he doesn't watch music videos. He listens to music. So I don't know where he got all the, this yearnings, grabbing onto those emotion things, but it's coming to him naturally, I guess. Could be a little entertainer coming up. Anyway. Uh-oh. My eye's starting to burn. It's getting sweaty here in the studio, so. All right. This one is coming from California, and it has to do with apparitions, voices, and touches. I guess the night's moving by, isn't it? Wow. It says, I've had many experiences with ghosts and spirits, both kind and evil. I'm a magnet for some reason. While years can go by in between these experiences, they do tend to come in groups. I'm a Baptist, so while I believe in demons, I believe that I am protected from harm. Thus, they can try to scare me or even touch me, yet they can in no way possess me. Most experiences are visual and auditory, and only two being physical. The one I share with you is visual and auditory. It happened 7 years ago, in a particularly sad time in my life, which I believe allowed me to be open for this. I was home alone in a home I was sharing with my sister and her husband. It was evening time in early November. I would say around 7 p.m. or so in Hayward, California, and thus very dark pretty early. I'd settled into my room to play some games on the computer, and all the lights in the house were switched off, and I had all the light I needed from my monitor, I was intently playing a game that involved only minor concentration when I noticed a noise coming from my kitchen which sounded like a piece of silverware falling onto our stainless steel sink. Thinking that I better go check it out, I walked out into the kitchen to find all the silverware clean and waiting in the strainer to be put away. I figured my sister had washed them, which I later found out that she had. I looked in the sink to find the stray piece that had fallen, yet there was nothing in the sink. I even checked the disposal, and we all know how silverware loves to go down there, but again, nothing. Must have been my imagination, I thought to myself. As I headed back to my room after dismissing this as my imagination, I heard something slap against my bedroom door, which had somehow shut itself while I was in the kitchen. Strange, I thought. I don't remember shutting my door, and then I thought, I have a home invader. And instinctively grabbed my firearm from its hiding spot in the living room, and as I opened the door to my bedroom, I saw my father's cane lying on the floor at the base of the door. This cane has been in my closet for years and never moved. Now, my mind was really boggled, and I started to panic just a tad when I heard from the kitchen the sound of all the silverware falling into the sink, which I must say startled me quite a bit and caused me to go into search mode. After a quick search of the house, I found no outsiders. The house was empty, save me, so I put the firearm up and headed into the kitchen to wash the silverware that must have fallen into the sink. However, the silverware was sitting in the strainer where it had been earlier. At this point, I figured something was having a little fun at my expense, so I put away the silverware and headed back to my room to continue my gaming while still very shaken. as I sat down, I felt this feeling of dread come over me. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, and it really felt like the air was being squeezed from my lungs. I've never felt fear like that in my life. I felt like something was trying to push its way inside my consciousness. It took all of my willpower, but I started to quote the Bible's Psalms 23. And as I got about a quarter of the way through it, I heard this hiss in my head. And across the room, the lid of the laundry basket popped into a vertical position, lingering for a moment or two, and then slammed shut. The room felt normal again. I could breathe a bit easier, albeit I turned on a few lights and went outside for a few minutes, but everything seemed to go back to normal. I was a bit shaken the rest of the evening, but luckily a female friend of mine happened to come over and spend the night and listen to my experience. She believed it was an entity of some sort and possibly a demonic one. But whatever it was, it had me shaken, which is not easy to do. Now, that's plenty creepy. Wow. That's horrid. The thing you gotta wonder is, is it just a one-off thing? Where is it? How did it get in? That's what I always wonder. Is what was the situation that allowed it in? And he said it was going through a hard time, so maybe it was that just general stress and strain. I think that, that obviously stress, sadness, the strain of life when it gets real heavy, it makes your aura weak. I think we become more susceptible to the impressions of these negative things. It's horrid stuff, but what do you do? And honestly, all you can do is just try to get rebalanced as quickly as you can. The thing that occurs to me a lot about these dark spirits is that they have nothing but time. I mean, there's no schedule that they have to keep that we know of. I mean, I don't think they only get a certain amount of time before they have to do whatever it is they want to do. I think they can spend years at it. And I think sometimes that's the case. Some people may drag these things around in their shadows for years, just having to deal with that constant negative influence for whatever reason. And I think if you can make it through that, and if you can conquer it, I do believe that having those kind of struggles can really awaken a really deep and powerful thing within us. It can possibly turn on a lot of ability that we don't know that we had or didn't know we had. I think that the presence of these things, it's a battle if you're ever dealing with it head to head. But I think if you make it through it, and most people I believe do, maybe I'm absolutely wrong. Maybe most people fail and fall victim to these things taking over their lives. But I think if you can make it through it, that it's like sparring with something for years. And as you spar, if you've ever trained in any of the arts, whether it's martial arts or boxing or whatever, but as you spar, you become more of an agile and effective opponent. And I think that that's the same thing with these spiritual battles. And I really do think that there's some concerted effort by either some kind of group or some intelligence in this realm to try to break down people. And some people would call that the devil. Some people would just call it something else. I mean, there's so many ideas. And, I don't know that there is this one grand intelligence of darkness. Maybe there is, but to me that doesn't seem quite right. But I think that there are those things out there that really want to break down break us down. They want to tear apart everything that we build. They want to tear down every progress we made, and it's hard to understand what that is. I mean, it may not be quite as evil as it sounds, because what if it's a lot of nature spirits that are just so frustrated with the disregard we have for our natural world around us, and they just want to tear it down because it's ugly and it's not pure and beautiful like the world that, because I think those kind of entities are out there, but I think that they are I don't know how to state this, but they are like the guardians of it, for lack of a better term. They are the janitors or the custodians of those spaces, and as they're corrupted with our sidewalks and misuse, perhaps that makes them angry. I don't know. So I think those things can be dark spirits sometimes too. I mean, if you look at places like our big cities, those were once, in the most cases, they were once pristine natural lands and have been, bulldozed and carved out, and all this buildings and pavement and et cetera has been pounded into the face of this once beautiful place. And so maybe some of this dark stuff we deal with is actually really pissed off nature spirits. But and who can blame them? I guess. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't have the idea that people are bad and we're horrible and all that stuff. I mean, I don't think we are. I think we're but I think the fact that we don't have balance with the world around us, that we don't have that balance as an innate part of our presence, has caused things like this. So I don't know. I'm kind of spiderwebbing all over, and I apologize for that because I don't mean to, but I do think that that's a pretty dark situation, and I'm glad the guy made it through it. That's horrible. I'd be really interested to hear his other stories, though, too. I hope we come across those at some point. Let's see, what do we got? I'm going to read one more here, and this one's not real long. But and this is from Massachusetts. Has to do with a lot of miscellaneous activity. It says, one night I was in bed trying to fall asleep. My room was pitch black. For some reason, I was focused on the top right corner of my room. It just seemed darker than the rest of the room. I had this feeling of dread, and I knew something was going to appear or happen. And all of a sudden, the darkness in the top right corner of my room moved towards me. It entered my body, and at that moment, I knew it was evil and that I would have to fight to make it leave my body. My body became stiff, and I could not move very much. This is similar to an experience I had during my visions. When I'm going to have a vision, my body becomes stiff, and I can't move my body. My visions occur when I'm in between being awake and asleep. I can't open my eyes and I can hardly move, and I've seen places and events that happened. However, this has only occurred a couple of times. Everything about these visions are very scary. Usually I force my eyes open and I miss the rest of the vision, but this time it was even scarier, but it felt different. I felt an evil presence in my body. I can't remember what exactly the spirit had said, but it communicated through me. Then it made me laugh and smile very sinisterly. That's what they wrote, sinisterly. I had to force it to leave, and I think it happened because I was very sad and vulnerable at the time. It has not happened since, but I always remember that night. Why had it chosen me? What did it want? All I know is that I am happy and I was able to make it leave my body and leave me alone. I've had some weird experiences since then, but nothing as scary as that night. It's kind of funny that this theme keeps coming up. I have to tell you, I always pull these stories up at random. I mean, I just click, grab a bunch of them and load them up. So I'm not planning any kind of narrative for any of the shows when I'm doing these night terrors, especially. And it's funny that these themes emerge. And so tonight the theme seems to be that we've got to get centered. We've got to get ourselves centered again. And this time, this period, that we're living through right now, it's like it's impossible, nearly impossible to find any balance because there's so many things going on from so many directions. And it's hard to find equilibrium in this tempest, in this maelstrom that we're in. But the theme seems to be that as we're so far off balance, we become susceptible to darker things, or we at least become weaker versions of ourselves. And I think that now more than ever, it's so important to get into the, into our zone and into our equilibrium. We need to meditate. We need to find balance, probably in a number of ways. Nutritionally, yeah, I see the phone, guys. Nutritionally, we need to see the balance in our spirituality. We need to see the balance in all of our lives. And I think that's kind of the takeaway tonight. But yeah, it's pretty funny how these themes emerge all by themselves. And thank you, Aussie brother. I appreciate it. Love you, man. That's really wonderful. I really appreciate your help. Let's get to the call. I think this is D. Let's see what D's got to say tonight. Hello, you're on the air.
Hi. Oh my gosh, Brent. I had what may or may not be, but you guys, please tell me what you think about this. May have had something really cool happen just now.
Ooh.
I took a walk around the property for the first time back in the woods. I have been doing my meditations, and from time to time, when I would think of the Sasquatch, I would be thinking about, and asking kind of questions in my mind, and seem to be getting answers.
Mm-hmm.
And I seem to be talking, like having some kind of communication. Wow. And I was thinking, but you know how when you're meditating, you think, well, is that just me? Is that my mind? Am I making things up? Am I just, is that wishful thinking, or what is going on? So I finally said, you know what, if I really am talking to a Sasquatch here in this way, would you please do something so that I would know that it really happened, so that I did not just dream. And if you do, I will tell people, and, I will let people know that it happened, if that's okay with you. And they said, sure, that's okay. And I sent you the picture. I go down, I suddenly get this urge to explore the backwoods of this area that I haven't gone down this path.
Okay.
And I go down this path, and I just get a feeling. I look off to the left. And here, way up in this tree, is a tree branch wedged in another tree branch, with the tree branch that it broke off of. It looks like it broke off of the tree it's wedged in, but it's just hanging there. Like it couldn't be doing that by itself.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It could not have got there by itself.
Right.
But if that was what it is, oh my gosh, it's huge. Something huge would have had to do this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is that it? I sent you the picture. I sent you and Duke the picture. I tried to get you a close-up of it, but this would be my very first, if so, this would be the first time I ever had any proof of it.
Wow.
At all.
Right. No, I've got it on screen. I've got it on screen now. It's on the screen now, so you should be seeing it through your feed.
Oh, okay. I can't see what I'm calling what's on your screen right now.
Yeah, that's...
So you look at that, and that was like way up in a tree, and I'm like, how could the wind do that? The wind could do that.
Right. Wow.
Which means that this other thing I'm going to tell you, because this was part of my question, because I was thinking back and I would never know this if I hadn't watched Duke shows and the shows here and everything, I have actually come in contact with Bigfoot before and did not even know what it was.
Oh, okay.
Because I was walking down the trail and I had some pebbles thrown at me. I
Oh,
saw all these weird, like you guys were talking. See, I was wondering who was doing this in the woods. Who was breaking off tree branches and doing all this weird stuff? And I saw these, and really back then I didn't have a phone or anything. This was way back.
right.
And I used to travel, like at least maybe 20 years. And I'm going down this one, and I feel like there's eyes on me, but I can't see anybody. I get these pebbles thrown in my path, and I stop. I'm looking all around. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And I say, I got a funny feeling here. Am I in somebody's front yard? And I hear this sound from way in the distance. Thank God it was way in the distance, or I probably would have, it would have been brown trouser time, right? Because when I heard it in the distance, it was bad enough, but if it would have been close up, I really would have, you know.
Yeah, that's intense.
Anyway,
That's really intense.
so I hear this noise, and I'm like, yeah, I think I am in somebody's front yard. And it didn't occur to me that it was a Sasquatch or anything like that. I didn't know the signs or anything like that. And I just took off back the other way, and I said, guys, whoever you are, I don't want any trouble, because it sounded huge. And I'm like, I don't want any trouble, and I can go back the other way. There's no problem at all, really, no problem.
Sure.
And I just kind of beat feet in the opposite direction.
This is pretty remarkable. I'm looking at the picture, and so that forked tree is kind of balanced up. That forked tree branch is kind of balanced up on that other one. Is that what I'm seeing? And then that kind of ends. It's cut off, and it's just up there by itself.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just hanging up there all by itself. Just how in the heck could it get there? It couldn't get there by a wind.
Yeah, that's pretty
Couldn't
strange.
do that.
Yeah. And if it was a tree, a big tree that came down, those smaller branches would have snapped off as the trunk went down. I wouldn't suspect they would remain intact up and suspended in another tree. That's really weird. Huh.
I think I'm in touch. I think I got in touch with them psychically somehow. I don't know how. Maybe they're telepathic. Maybe they are telepathic. Maybe that's how Greg knew when Brian was going to show up.
Yes, that's
Maybe they have some skills that we don't even know about.
Sure. Yeah, that's the belief is that there's a lot of people that say they've experienced, they call it the mind speak. And I don't know. I've never experienced it myself, but yeah, that's really incredible. Well,
And I'm in touch with Sasquatch.
it could
This
be.
is great. We can talk to them now. I'm so excited. Okay, this is great. This is absolutely great. Okay, I'm going to end it. I'm going to cut it off here, and maybe we'll talk another time about this.
Okay.
I just wanted your expert opinion and Duke's opinion and everybody's opinion in chat, and thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing it here. I think it's fascinating.
Well, it just happened.
Wow.
Just before I came in. It's like, oh, what a perfect time.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Okay,
really
bye.
cool. All right, take care. Do you love you? Okay. Well, there you go. That is really cool. I don't know. I don't know why that would be balanced up in that tree like that. Of course, the ends here goes this way and goes this way. It seems to be kind of interwoven through the other tree. It's not likely that it's from a felled tree to me, because when I've ever watched trees fall, and we used to cut wood all the time back when I was younger, and the big trees, of course, they have a lot of branches and stuff, but as they come down, this is the part that's thickest and most connected down where it connects to the rest of the trunk. So this is not going to be likely where the tree breaks. It's going to break off on all these tertiary branches because they're weak and small and obviously can't support the weight of the trunk as it comes down, so they just shatter. The branches just usually shatter on the way down. Now there could be smaller ones that would be suspended still, but this looks pretty significant. I don't know. I've not seen something like this personally, so I can't obviously say it is Sasquatch, but given the fact that she had the experience and asked for the representation or some proof, and then lo and behold, she found some. That's at least pretty compelling, ladies and gentlemen. So, do the Sasquatch mind speak? Well, there's some people that really swear they do. Some pretty surprising names as well. So, I think it's very possible. I think that, in fact, I think nature probably mind speaks. And we have just lost our connection with all of that. And so that's why we don't. So very cool, though. Thanks again, Dee. I appreciate you sending that in and sharing it with us. I think you've found something very fascinating at the very least. So please keep us informed of that as you dig more into it, because that's some powerful stuff. Very powerful stuff. But, ladies and gentlemen, we ended up going a little bit over, but I hope you guys have had a wonderful time here with me tonight. Thank you again, Dee, for sharing that. I think that's pretty powerful stuff, and I'll be looking forward to more of your conversations as they happen, if you don't mind sharing them. But that's all I got for you guys. So, again, a couple nights off, and then we'll be back on Wednesday for more of the Paranormal Portal with Don and myself, and some of the people that joined us in Coloma, hopefully, will come on and we'll have some discussions. So be looking forward to that. And I hope you guys are all doing wonderful. Thank you for spending your time here with me tonight on the tail end of your weekend. Hope you guys have a great couple of days. Just know that I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other, help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. And we'll be back before you know it, but check out the podcast. It was released today, and you can find all of our podcasts on iHeart, iTunes, Pandora, Spotify, Stitcher, Castbox, and bunches of more, Google Play. So dozens and dozens more. So look for us out there and check out the shows. Leave us good reviews if you love them, because it helps us a ton. So love you guys, and I hope you have sweet dreams.